with the stem along with the base, now you have one solid piece of glass, and that's what we use here. And it's a little more expensive, but you're getting a piece of glassware that should last for a long, long time. Another thing that's so critical, feel the edge of a good glass. The edge of a good glass almost feels like it could cut you. The reason is that you want this edge to be on the sharp side. You don't want this ground down into a kind of a round shape, because then it reduces the amount of aroma that you can perceive. A sharper edge produces a superior ability to perceive aroma. The other thing that's important is the cling. See, when you do that, you can tell that this is leaded crystal. This is crystal glass, and it's a much higher grade of glass. When you hit it and it doesn't ring and it's got a thud, then it's not crystal. So that's the other thing. You know, wine is such an elegant thing. Wine is such an elegant experience. Why not do it as good as you can do it? You know, get nice glass. Get good equipment, so that when you have a glass of wine, you feel as though you're celebrating. You feel as though you're doing something that you really enjoy doing, as opposed to, you know, just pouring some wine in a glass and slugging it down. I mean, that's not the full wine experience. So here we go. Look at the color on that thing. I mean, what a gorgeous, gorgeous color. And by pouring it like this, it's kind of like you're venturing it a little bit. You're aerating it some. Here's the Venturi, by the way. And I'll show you, when you Venturi the wine, watch what happens. Watch the aeration. See the bubbles all over the place? I mean, it's amazing. It just creates so much agitation and aeration. They work. They really do. We did a tasting at my son's house on Monday night, and we tasted half the wines without Venturi and half the wines with Venturi. And it was like hands down, the wines that were Venturi tasted better. So that could be a great way of winning a competition, you know. If they, oh, could you Venturi my wines? Don't Venturi those, but, you know, Venturi mine. And you probably win. So, color, beautiful, dark, rich. Cabernet Sauvignon, the king of red wines. King. Wow. You know, one of the things that was amazing, when we went to Virginia, most of the wineries there said, "Nah, we really can't grow Cabernet real well." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, you know, our growing season is shorter than our growing season, and so we have more heat, and we have more sun, and so as a result, we get more ripening. And Cabernet Sauvignon is one of those grapes that loves sun, loves heat. So you need that kind of environment to really get this dark, rich color and full ripening." Now, Virginia does a good job with Cabernet Franc, but Cabernet Sauvignon is a little bit harder for them to do. They also have trouble getting full ripening on Pinot Noir. But I'll tell you, in Virginia, some of the finest Viognier I've ever tasted in my life is being grown in Virginia. Just, you know, I personally am not crazy about Viognier. I think Viognier is kind of a schizophrenic grape. It thinks it's maybe Muscat. It might be Sauvignon Blanc. It's somewhere stuck in the middle. And in Virginia, it seems to be kind of slanted more towards the Sauvignon Blanc with a little bit of Semillon character. It's less of that candied fruit flavor that many parts of the world where they grow Viognier. So again, they do a nice job with Viognier there. I think Texas is doing a very nice job with Viognier. I just have not gotten the bug to produce one of those. Here we are with Cabernet Sauvignon, Private Reserve. Oh, just a lovely smell. Let's see if the left nostril's awake yet. Nope, still sleeping away. Here we go. Mmm. Mmm. Wow. See, I mean, you look at the legs on this wine. I mean, these are big, big, jumbo legs. I mean, rich legs. The kind of legs that you'd say, wow, looks like a 100-yard dash runner. I mean, those are some thighs on that chick. Whoa, that's a beautiful glass of wine. One of the characteristics of Cabernet that I love is right up front, you get this kind of black pepper. And it just says, you know, I'm special. I'm something that's going to really get your attention. And a well-made Cabernet does that. And then in the middle of the palate, you start picking up things like vanilla. You start picking up the wood flavors. And then on the very back of the tongue, you start picking up the tannins, the skin, the integration of the skin with the juice. So you get this upfront black pepper, middle palate, vanilla and wood, and then on the back end you start picking up the skin tannins, and you really get those wonderful composition of an inclusive wine. The other thing that's nice about our cabs is that our cabs typically do beautifully in the bottle for 15 to 20 years. That is not true of many, many wineries. And I think the reason is that we do extended skin contact on our red wines. So if you start fermentation with skin and you pull the skins off in 7 days, I think you're going to get a wine that has less ageability. Whereas we leave our skins on the juice for 21 days. And as a result, the integration of the skin tannins into the wine preserves the life of the wine. So our wines age longer. They just have great staying power. Wow. I mean, when you drink this wine, you feel as though you've had a big and bold glass of wine. You don't feel cheated in any way, shape, or form. And I can tell you that our Cabernets will never, ever be accused of being wimpy. Wimpy Cabernets are not good. If you make a wimpy Cabernet, you may as well not make a Cabernet, because Cabernet says, I'm big, I'm bold, I expect people to take notice. And so ours are that way. I also want to show all of our graduates of 2011 a commemorative port that we've done just for you. And why do we do it in a port? Well, the reason is that you buy a case and then you wait 5 years and you open up a bottle and it goes, wow, this is good. 10 years it's good, 15 years it's good, 20 years it's good. You go to your 40th class reunion, you still have some of the wine. It still tastes good. The beauty of port is that this wine will age and continue to be good for the next 100 years. And I hope that by that time, everyone's living 121 years, because that's a goal that we should all shoot for. But that's why we do port in this particular label, because it has such great staying power. It lasts forever. All right, the next wine we're going to do, we're going to switch a little bit over to a dessert wine that I love. It's one of the finest dessert wines that we make. Meryl and I, when we conceived of this wine, was way back in 1985. We did a Muscat Canelli, and we were producing a Muscat Canelli. And that year, we had about 4 tons of Muscat that we didn't get picked at the normal time. So there were 4 tons of fruit hanging on the vine about 3 weeks before we could get back to it. Well, by this time, the grapes shrivel up, they raisin up, they become very, very sweet. Well, now what are we going to do with that? Well, we're going to make a late harvest Muscat Canelli. We did, and it was like, oh, it's unbelievable. So we had already had a late harvest Riesling that we called Angel. So we thought, let's stay in the vein of that type of naming. So we call this Glory. So we had Angel, Glory, and it's a lovely, lovely wine. It is a late harvest, so you can pick up the apricot aromas, the wonderful peach flavors of the Muscat. This is the 2008 vintage. It's wonderful. 2008 was a great year for Muscat Canelli. So we're gonna, and when do you have this? People say, well, it's a dessert wine. Well, not really, not really. I mean, you can have this as a dessert wine, or you can actually have this with a spicy meal. You can have this with the entree. If the entree is hot, if the entree is spicy, this goes beautifully. It absolutely goes beautifully. And you talk about a wine that's going to have legs. Watch this. It almost looks thick when you pour it. The other little secret that I'll just tell you all about is that this is with frizzante. This has inherent carbon dioxide into the bottle. I don't know if you noticed this, but when we were pouring it, as you pour it, it actually has a few bubbles. Those bubbles are the CO2 gas that escapes from the wine as you're pouring it. It's not a sparkling wine. It doesn't have enough frizzante to make it to call it a sparkling wine. It just is lively on your tongue. So let's check again. Oh, right nostril's working. Left nostril's asleep. Now we swirl. This swirling is going to show a thickness and richness, huge legs. So spicy entrees, dessert, especially things like peach pie, peach cobbler, apple pie. I love this with like a vanilla pudding. Oh, I love it with vanilla pudding. My mom makes a thing that I love this with, and it's called icebox cake. What you do is you take graham crackers, you put them down like you're making lasagna, then you put a vanilla pudding in between the layers, and then you put another graham cracker, and then you put some more pudding, and then you put another graham cracker, and then more pudding, and then it goes in the refrigerator, and it sets up as it's called an icebox cake. I love it. It's simple, it's easy to do. There we go. Wow. The beauty of this thing is that right up front, it's sweet. And then to the middle of the palate, you can taste the acidity. Because when you're making a dessert wine like this, or a sweet wine, to the winemaker, it is so critical that the wine be balanced. Okay, now what do I mean by balanced? On one side of the seesaw is acidity. The other side of the seesaw is sweetness. So if you make a dessert wine that's overly sweet and has no acid, it's out of balance. So you have a wine that you go, it tastes like syrup. It tastes like there's just not enough acidity to carry it off. Now we go the other way around. The wine is harvested maybe too early. It's got a lot of acidity and it's not sweet enough. I've had a few of those wines that they call dessert wines, and the wine may be about 4 to 5% residual sugar, which is about half of the normal amount in a dessert wine, and yet the acidity is amazing. So what happens is it makes that wine taste like it's dry. You're missing the point. This is supposed to have balance between acidity and sweetness. And the balance is what makes this so nice, because if it's too sweet, it doesn't really go with the food. If it's balanced, you can use it as a dessert wine, or you could serve this with a nice spicy entree. Maybe something with wasabi. I think this would go great with sushi. I love sushi with wasabi and ginger. The smell of the ginger and the wasabi and this kind of creamy peach. Oh, just a gorgeous combination. Wow. I'm telling you, if you had this wine and a pool, I mean, forget it. I mean, who's got life any better than that? I mean, it's crazy. Let me show you one other thing. This is a little device here that we sell at the winery. And let's say that for whatever reason, you really didn't chill this enough. You keep these in the freezer, you push them down like that, and you pour it through a chilling chamber, and it takes the wine right up to proper temp. So, a quick and fast way of chilling your wine. Keep these in your freezer. If the wine's not chilled enough, you could use it and immediately brings the wine up to the proper temp. If you're using it for a white, you put this in the freezer. If you're using it on a red, you put this in the refrigerator, because the refrigerator will chill the coolant inside this chamber to exactly 55 degrees. So it's perfect for reds. Whereas if you're trying to do this on a white, the freezing compartment goes and takes the wine down to about 45 to 50 degrees, which is the perfect temperature for the serving of the white wine. So, and then also these wines age longer than regular white wines. So if you have a lovely bottle of dessert wine, the shelf life on a dessert wine is usually about 10 years. On a still white wine, usually about 4 to 5 years. See, I don't know if you could see this, but I sucked the vacuum and you could see some of the CO2 gas that I'm pulling up by creating the vacuum. We bottled this cold, so that's the reason why we got the Frizzante. Last but not least is the a wine that is, my God, it's one of my favorite wines that we have still a few cases left. Not many. This is going to go down in history as one of the finest ports we've ever produced. It's the 2003 port. What's amazing about this wine is that we just bottled the 2007 Private Reserve port. This wine is just like the 2007 that we just put in the bottle when it was that age. Dark, strong dark berry flavors. A lot of chocolate. I mean, really amazing amounts of chocolate. And this wine won gold medals in California. It won at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Really a lovely bottle of wine. 2003 port. You know, port wines age forever. So you buy a case of the port wines and you open one up, and as long as you drink it before you're dead, that probably works out just fine. 50 years, 100 years, they're just wonderful. And this has got such a great looking bottle. I mean, the Paolo with the awards that it won, it's a father and son cuvee. Paul and I blend these together. You know, he's with us full time now, and he's our operating officer, and he's doing a fabulous job. And Sophia Marie, the wine is doing great, selling like hotcakes. She's just about walking, so she's a trip to watch. Now for this, we're going to go ahead and use the Venturi again. Let me show it to you with the stand. Put this glass underneath it, put this on top. Beautiful for your bar. Get one of these stands, these little Venturi things, very sleek, great looking. Pour, aerates. Nice, makes a mess, beautiful. Wife kills you, you know, all those good things. Oh boy, a little gurgling. I mean, you know, wine should appeal to all your senses. So you got visual, you got ear, you got mouth, you got smell. It's beautiful. Tactile, touches your tongue, very exciting. So here we go, a swirl. By the way, we should be breaking ground in Fredericksburg within the next 3 weeks. architect, Mr. Mustard, is doing a great job, along with our builder, Mr. Glenn, doing a great job. Swirl, smell. Let's see if the left nostril is dead still. Still dead. Okay, now we do the right nostril. Beautiful, beautiful. Mm. Man, I tell you, if that's not chocolate, I mean, that's dark chocolate with a little bit of espresso. I mean, it is, it's just a lovely, lovely wine. Just beginning to really come into its own. I mean, it's amazing. 2003, we're now in 2011, and you say, my God, this thing has got staying power. That's amazing. The color has not changed any. It's still that vibrant purple color that is just amazing. Great smell. I mean, you could smell the vineyard. I mean, like you're walking down in between